Woo!
Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the season finale of Andor Band Batch recap, breakdown episode, live stream. Thank you for. I should probably tweet this as well so that people know we're live at this kind of weirder time than usual. We are missing James, who is not feeling well after his travels. So, yeah, everyone send James your best wishes.
We miss you, James.
But we are
You are
here.
missed, James.
Yes. But we are here to talk about probably the most on brand episode of Andor yet.
For us,
there
at
was
It
least.
was
there was a band
so
batch
good.
in this episode, and we're gonna
The
talk all
batch
about
of
it.
bandos.
There was, yeah, there was so much band action happening. It was like the episode was specifically for us.
Right?
It
I
was
saw that
like
when
that.
watching it. The moment all that came on, I was like, oh, we're going to talk so much about this. It's going to be
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, really funny. So Gary, nice to see you. Good evening, folks. Couldn't make it last week, but I'm not missing the final Andor season one discussion. Glad to have you here. Um, wow, so many instruments. Like, you know what I thought of? Like, the instruments that were in this episode reminded me of like if you put into like one of those AI like art generators, like Dolly or something.
Yeah.
You put like Star Wars marching band instruments or something, and that would be the instruments that we got in this episode, pretty much.
It would.
They are the
It's
space
funny,
clarinet was my favorite.
the space clarinet flutes, well,
French
I was trying to
horn.
figure them. Yeah, I was trying to figure them out. Like, let's take. It was a great idea. Let's take real, like, Earth instruments and turn them into some kind of Star Wars version. And I like the answer to that is to turn the bells into octagons or like sharp edges, add a bunch of like metal switches on everything, and then for the flutes give it also an oboe and clarinet attachment. I think, was it three instruments in one?
They
It looked
were
like, could I
honestly.
like take it and then like play it like this on a different one, or like switch? I was kind of really interested in those instruments.
Okay, so there were many instruments. So let me put some images on the screen. Um, so I think the first like prominent one that we saw was this amazing thing.
Yes, that.
Yeah. Look at that.
And so
It's
this like okay, I feel like most of the instruments I saw were just like were decked out flutes, but
Yeah, okay, okay. I'm
but
like
decked out
pointing
in
at the
different
screen.
ways.
Yeah, I'm pointing at the screen like you can all tell what I'm pointing at. Okay, so like straight up the top of that instrument.
Hmm.
So they're playing a flute. So okay, so that's a regular looking C flute to me.
Hmm.
Looks just like this,
Yes.
right? Closed holes though. It's got all the things. And then I'm pretty sure right above that, the top little attachment, that's a flute head joint. That's just another head joint, just like that, pictured like that with some other thing attached to it.
Right, because it looks
And
like someone
then,
could be blowing into it from the other side.
right, and then the bottom of it. Oh my goodness, this is wonderful. This is so cool. Thank you for this picture, Xanthe. The bottom of it is the bottom piece of the flute.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's so
with a
cool.
cool
Facing the other
like
way, right?
engine
Yeah,
looking thing. It
facing.
looks like
It's funny because this like when I when I was kind of looking closer, it looked like just like
No,
extra
that's
instrument.
right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, but I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I'm mirrored, so yeah. No, that makes sense.
Um, it they look like instruments with other instrument parts tacked onto them, but also this one in particular looks like a Y-wing and pod racer.
that's what I was
It's
Yes.
really
thinking.
cool.
Yeah.
And
Too cool.
I think it's I think it's really interesting that like, well, the instruments that we normally see in Star Wars, we're not necessarily getting close-ups of multiple people playing the thing. Like, how do I put this? Like, these had to be real instruments underneath. Like, they had to be real instruments because it looked like they were actually playing. And I don't know if it was necessarily the sound was recorded on set, but it's clear that most of the players, I think there are a couple exceptions. I think most of the players were like real, were like actually players of those instruments, with the exception of maybe this guy. This guy.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in the back there.
that didn't really.
Not quite sure what.
Yeah, I don't think his mouth is in the right place. It looks like he's eating the flute,
No.
or
Yeah.
whatever that is.
Or whatever that is.
But I do know that Tony Gilroy did, like, in the interview in many interviews, he's been teasing the big musical number in the final episode. So I guess this was it.
And I had
Matthew.
read too.
Tony
Yeah,
Gilroy
Matthew pointed this out.
Said in an interview that the really big funeral march was the first thing they filmed for Andor. Yep, the music the band played was the first thing that composer Nicholas Britell worked on. Yep, yes. It's really interesting.
It's so interesting, and knowing that this is where we were kind of going with all this, right? And yeah, I couldn't tell. I felt like they did a really great job of making this sound like it was in world, like
Yes.
filmed on the spot, than they did with the choir on Aldani, kind of a thing. I felt like that one to me was like very obviously post-production kind of a thing.
And it
where
was mixed
this
with score.
one and mixed with score, where this one was like really like you can kind of tell. We musicians, we like to watch the fingers and to see if the fingers are actually doing, and I felt like for the most part they kind of were, but there was some moments I guess I could question. But it sounded very real. And plus, not only that, I loved the fact that it was that everyone was kind of. We've had all these discussions about what out of tune means, but in this case, very much out of tune, as in like amateur musicians coming together for a funeral, doing their thing. Maybe
which I loved.
Yeah, same here. Same here.
All right, so what's going on here?
Space clarinet flute
being played to the
That's
side.
another flute, basically.
It is another flute.
But with,
okay.
With a clarinet attachment at the bottom.
That's why it's like the big bell or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And the little spiky thing on the left.
I think it's a decoration.
What I was trying to think, and Justin, you have more experience than both of us in the wind instrument world, in the band, like in the band instrument, like in bands, period, in like wind bands. Was instrumentation-wise, did the amount of brass and woodwinds that we were seeing on screens match what we were hearing?
I felt like it kind of did.
Yeah, okay.
It did feel like the brass in a couple moments were like kind of
more
reinforced.
Than we saw. Right.
Yeah, more than we saw. But the sound of all the flutes and kind of lower flutes and clarinets. Although I did hear like what I thought kind of almost sounded like alto flutes for a moment there. And some of the lower flute registers, but I was able to play everything on my normal flute.
Well, let's see if we can pick out some more instruments. I took screenshots of every single instrument, so every single instrument shot. So
is that the drum?
The drum, yes. That I believe that I saw multiple. I think I saw more than one drum, but I'm not sure. But this one was probably the main one. Mm-hmm.
With its like interesting cymbal piece of metal thing.
So what instrument would this brass-looking thing be?
It looked like a euphonium.
Okay, yeah.
Like a small, weirdly small type of euphonium, or like, what are they called? Wagner tubas? But those are a lot bigger,
huge,
I think.
Yeah.
Those are a lot bigger.
Yeah,
I heard a lot of
But
French horn sounding stuff.
Me too.
Is this what would have been making those, or is there some other image that you've seen that has something that looks more like a French horn?
there's a couple. There's
Yes,
a
yes,
couple
yes.
other
We'll
French
get to those.
horns.
So this is a euphonium. FYI. Okay. Let's let's bring up some more. We're gonna do this. This is a
Okay,
wonder-
okay, hold on.
Okay, yeah. Are you
Hold on.
listening?
So there's euphoniums, and there's a couple that are shaped just like I'm looking at some others online right now, and there are more that are shaped like less like a paperclip and more like a French horn,
Cool.
like
Yes.
rounded, like
We
what he's
will.
holding.
We will get there.
No, no, totally. I mean, like the euphonium looking one that we were just looking at. There are
Oh,
there are euphonium types shaped like that, and less like the one that you just showed up.
gotcha.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Yeah. Um, okay, so we already did the Y-wing thing, which was my favorite. Of course, we can't forget this, which is the time grappler. It's a blurry picture, but it's the anvil looking thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
We have
About the. Oh yeah, I was just going to mention something about the anvil, but I can say it later.
you can say it. Yeah.
So I felt. So I also will remind. So my piano is out of tune, so it just occurred to me. I was like, what if all the notes I transcribed are not correct? But the it's. Do you agree that the march was pretty much like in E?
Yeah.
E was the
Yeah.
bass note, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like pretty strongly that the bell toll was very much in C and F. Those were its notes, which is very interesting because that is just like the most possible jarring set of notes that could possibly go with E and B are C and F. Because I think I was hearing an F like and that also is interesting because the bell toll I felt was in C and F natural, both of those,
Okay, wait.
which is a
Let's
fourth.
just let me do the E and the B, C and F.
Hmm?
So these are E, B, C, F. So you're
Come
saying the
together.
time
Really?
grappler, but the time grappler wasn't. Was the time grappler part of the band or sort of separate?
I think it was separate.
I think it was separate too, which would make sense to do that so it wouldn't blend together.
I think it's separate. It has an amazing thing of creating a deep sense of foreboding just because of the pitches. It's that kind of tritone thing that happens where where you're just naturally uncomfortable when you hear those notes together. They sound a little bit off. But I think it also just really helps with kind of any tuning goes with the instrumentalists. But yeah, I don't think it was the same because I think he was just up. I mean, I don't think he would even be able to. There's no way that someone in a tower could possibly be in time or directly connected
Right.
to anything so far below. The time delay of the sound waves reaching, there's no way.
Yeah.
So he's just like, he's banging. It's just an inspirational separate
sure.
thing.
Yeah. That's a good point with the sound waves, like it being, impossible. The bigger there's a reason musicians will kind of play close together physically.
Yeah.
The farther they're apart you are, the more space that you have, the more like time sync issues you're going to have. I do think like seemed like there were two sections of the band kind of coming from different places. And so that was almost like, how would they have stayed together? However, they didn't perfectly stay together anyway. So maybe that is, I don't know, maybe they were all following cues from the time grappler. And like we were not hearing them as being in sync, but maybe I don't know. But okay, wait,
I have a suggestion for that, but I'll bring
Yeah.
it up later when when I do my Beethoven.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, we have this drum. Yes. And this
Mm,
other French horn looking thing
nice horn.
with the octagon kind of hanging out. We'll see more pictures of that later.
Yeah.
But Figure and Dan and the modal nodes played weird instruments. Oh, hold my beer. Andor episode 12, hold my beer. That's funny. Okay. All right. All right. Here's a little back view. We're going for this. So I'm trying to think, is this setup sort of marching band
I mean,
loosely?
it's the whole thing to me screamed. I mean, not screamed, but like the whole thing to me was very like New Orleans funeral band inspired.
Hmm.
Especially with like it's a little bit looser of a formation than a strict like military-esque marching band that we're used to, kind of a thing. At least like, you know, high school games, football games, parades, and stuff like that. But it was much more loose formation, like a New Orleans funeral band. Plus, they start with a dirge,
Yeah.
and a dirge is a style of very slow funeral march. So, and then of course in the New Orleans tradition, it gets faster and more lively, and then it becomes a big celebration and all things like that. Where this kind of like
It did get
became
livelier, but
it got livelier, but it became more like a ascension war march in
Yeah.
a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this really kind of spoke as like a, and that's very much a community thing as well. A lot of the funeral bands from New Orleans, and the aspect of everybody coming together and everyone kind of participating in the funeral.
Totally. This here we have a better picture of the, I don't know, the bell of the French horn. So here is, oh, this was such a nice shot. We see more of the euphoniums passing by the gloves. So here these are brass. So definitely, they're all French
Like a
horns.
trumpet
And
there.
oh, there's a trumpet. Yeah, that's a trumpet.
Yeah, like a
Euphonium. Those are these euphoniums
is
too?
that like a tube? Is that like a?
It looks like a tube.
I feel like everyone is playing a different instrument.
Yeah, like they're all kind of modded out a little slightly differently, right?
Right. I don't think and maybe you'll pull it up in a second, but I'm looking at another picture of like the whole band, like with all the flutes and everything, and I'm looking at all the flute clarinet things, and they're all different as well. Like everyone got a different instrument, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone
like
has
some
a
of them
different.
have the front thing,
Some of them
some of them
don't.
don't. There's this guy who really is not. Well, let's see. I wonder if the blow part, what's the blowy thing called? Oh, it's not. You can't really see. You know, the one who's like, who looks the least like
Yeah.
he's actually playing.
I mean, there are types of flutes that, like the bow flute, that use that kind of over mouth over the hole versus a cross blowing
Okay.
across kind of style.
So maybe that's what's happening.
Kind of
I
inspired by
feel
that. It looks like.
I feel like in that picture, the woman to the right, who's most clearly visible in the shot, has an appropriate embouchure for using flute.
Go back.
And
Yeah.
yeah, on the front. I mean, I guess she's the front person, kind of on the right. And I feel like they did that on purpose. They were like, okay, let's put somebody who is definitely playing quite properly, and everybody else, like, you know, they may or may not be.
And so an embouchure is the mouth shape that you make
Yeah.
when playing a wind instrument. So, Justin,
No,
what
and
is a flute embouchure?
A flute, I'm sure. Well, anybody, and I think a lot. You've all kind of done it if you've ever blown and made a sound with a bottle, like a soda bottle or something like that. Yep, that's it. Basically the same idea, which is pretty funny that they got everyone to do that. See, my theory though is that this was definitely like not recorded on the spot, kind of a thing, because I'm not sure about the playability of some of their modded out instruments. I mean,
Right.
who knows?
Right.
So, this is a situation where I would have loved to have been on set to hear everyone's like, all right, everyone, I want you to play the instruments, make it look like you're playing them, or actually like some of like the brass players, you could tell they're actually kind of playing into the instrument. So I would have loved to hear the cacophonous awful of just everybody playing these instruments as best as they can on set. That
Mm,
even though it's like not the actual score, you know what I'm trying to say?
for
I
sure.
want I want to hear the first grade band sound that everybody trying to
Well, I bet
play
you couldn't
these
even. I bet you
instruments.
couldn't hear it that much because, well, I mean, what they're doing here, I've done that in my line of work. I've done that many times where I'm playing an instrument on screen for like TV,
Mm-hmm.
and the way it's sort of like, okay, they're I'm sure it was not recorded on set, but I'm sure most of them are playing their instruments. So
Yeah,
the
yeah.
job that's called is sidelining, and it's
Mm,
when as a musician you're there, you're playing, your sound isn't really used necessarily. It's to do with the how you get paid and whatever
totally,
and stuff. But
totally.
they play the music on speakers really, really loud, like the pre-recorded thing. And so they would have
Oh,
all been playing along with the recording. And I do recall in interviews Tony Gilroy, I think, saying that like for this episode they had to like have the music ready to play on speakers really loud on set, and I bet that's
hmm.
why, because of
Interesting.
the sidelining musicians. And then afterward, it's like they're actually playing, but the sound has already been recorded and mixed elsewhere, and so you can do more with it. And
Totally.
that's how.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, it's like doing a music video.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the noises from the time grappler made were made hitting pipes in the showrunner's basement. Yeah. So Tony Gilroy and Nicholas Britell apparently live like very close to each other, and so they would just be like over at each other's place experimenting all the time. And I believe, yeah, the noises that hit the pipes in his basement. Um, okay. Thank you for all these facts, Matthew.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew.
Hmm. Those
Bertel
are
and
great.
Gilroy both took horn instruments home with them. He said they were made so they could still play despite the modifications. Okay, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
That makes sense.
I was
Um,
wondering about, in terms of modifications, also the paint jobs. Like, I feel like it's really hard to paint something like a flute and have it still work. I mean, maybe they're not paint, maybe it's the lighting, but like some of those are definitely not silver. I mean, like, and yes, there are, maybe they're rusted instead of painted. I just think that's really interesting. Like, how did they manage to make such notable changes? And
Hmm.
well, maybe
that was probably really fun.
clarinet and oboe parts would be black, right? So
Hmm.
yeah, but like we didn't see like purple or anything like that. Um, I love I love the shots when you can start to see them all come together. Yeah, this guy, this guy. I want to know what is happening with this guy. uh, so funny. Um, let's see, let's see. I think there's just maybe a couple more prominent photos. Oh, okay, yeah. Here we have another drummer actually. So, and on the red side, I think the red side was meant to be the Daughters of Ferrix. Is that right? The people in red.
Maybe. It kind of felt like
I,
there was like these different factions, right?
Yeah, like the band was mostly in yellow, but the Daughters of Ferrix were on the other side, and then they all came together.
am, so the way I took it, for some reason, I thought most of the wind players were wearing like kind of orange and the brass players were wearing red. I
Oh,
didn't really pay attention to the drum, but like where all those flutes are standing, they're all in orange in that photo you just showed us, and all the
like the
brass
yellow,
behind
you
them in
like
red.
the lighter color.
Oh, yellow. Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
totally. To
You're
me,
right.
that
No, you're
seems
right.
like,
You're totally right.
I think it's, yeah, and I find that just really fascinating that they all have the same badge in terms of their uniforms, right? So they all have the same badge.
Uh huh.
They, oh yeah, there is yellow, orange, and red, and then
Mm.
normal people colors. Um,
Oh yeah, there are only a few people in orange, and it seems like there maybe two drums, or actually no, actually it's hard to tell. There's this the people
it
in the
is.
front kind of look orange red, more dark than light, I'd say. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but yeah, I kind of do feel, I mean, for sure, every one of those flutes right there is wearing yellow.
yeah, you're right, and I think that gave me the illusion of like, wait, is this mostly flutes? Which it wasn't, but you know, flutes were very prominent. Um, do we see any space clarinets here? Yes. Here's the
Yeah.
space clarinet. Yes. That was someone's favorite. That was the cutting room floor's favorite, the space clarinet. How is it
Oh yeah,
decked
that's
out?
nice.
How's it decked out? Is that like a flute part on top?
It's hard.
It's
It's
hard to
hard to
tell.
tell.
Yeah. But anyway, it very cool, very cool. Yeah, I was definitely Dali made these. Could have made these.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And that's that same player who had the appropriate
The good
embouchure the
embouchure.
first time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like the only time that's like a good joke. It's like the only time that having a good flute embouchure helps you get cast better as a like an extra in a movie is is this scene.
I'm so curious how
Like
they cast
that could
this.
have been a question on the casting, right?
Yeah.
So, especially if they
Right?
filmed it first.
It's true.
I am curious how this was cast because it was done in the UK, so it must not work here. Here, if that were here, it wouldn't have been cast on the acting side of things. There would be a music contractor doing that. Mostly, not necessarily, but I mean, in the ones that I've done, at least. Because when you're a sideliner, because when you're a sideliner, you're not paid by SAG-AFTRA, you're paid by AFM or your
Oh,
royalty. You're
interesting.
under the jurisdiction of American Federation of Musicians in the U.S. You're not SAG-AFTRA unless you get a line, and then you have to. It's complicated. They don't want you to become part of that. So,
Interesting.
Britell named his horn the Dunkel horn after the musical director Matt Dunkley. Dunkley was on set and played in the band in the funeral march. Oh, well, maybe that's a way. Anyone on set who plays an instrument. I've been waiting for this episode. Yeah, glad you're here. So, okay, so let's talk about the tune that they were playing.
Yeah.
I have an
Very
image. I don't
simple.
know if it's well, I guess there's a tune. I always kind of go back to form as well.
Yeah,
So
let's talk
I'm
about
just
that.
gonna send you a picture of the overall form
Okay,
with its main
Yeah, 'cause
details.
so
Yeah, there's definitely a few like different sections in
yes,
this march.
Yeah.
need this
Or
horn.
is it a march? Is it more of a meander? Is it a a loose walk?
So people listening, please share your thoughts on this whole funeral march music. I want to hear what you make of it. And wow, let me share what Christina. Nice. Okay. Is the bottom what is this part crossed
The
out?
bottom is there. I just got too excited about my Beethoven realization
Okay,
and
okay.
put it right there immediately.
Okay, cool.
And so yeah, but we can still kind of look at the first section. So yeah, the name, like the general vibe is in the box, and then a few little notes.
Okay.
But yeah, it all starts with the bell toll at the end of the 23rd minute,
Uh-huh.
and then they all warm up
Yeah.
and have their kind
I
of individual.
loved
Yeah.
I
What did you
loved
guys
the
think about
warm-up
that?
part. Oh my gosh. It was so realistic, and it also just reminded me of like being back at music camp and just
Yeah,
I don't know.
right.
Oh my gosh, I loved the warm up.
Totally. It also just like it evoked everyone and their individual thing. They really do get to choose what to play right there. And they all know they're going to come together, but it's kind of a moment of like, you know what? I I shall play this. This is what
Yeah,
I'm feeling at the moment.
because different people will need to warm up with different, different little notes and lines and stuff.
It's true.
Okay.
And then we had the tonic drone.
You're right. And so that was an E.
And it was a minute after the warm up started. And the interesting thing about it was it had that B in it, so it did have that fifth interval, which I thought was interesting. And
Hmm.
I also wondered if they were really playing the B or if it was just an overtone.
Yeah, some of that was.
Um,
Okay, so here after the drone, then they come in and we have like kind of the trumpets, I think. We're doing the main line at this point. No, no.
hmm.
I can't remember. I can't remember if the trumpets come in
I
later.
think it was the horns
Yeah,
in
I
the
think it was the
alto,
horns.
right?
Yeah, then the trumpets top line later. So they're going, not go an octave lower. One, two, three. Which I thought was interesting because they would have, it would be 3 bars of 4 and then 1 bar of 3, like over and over.
Yeah,
So it was like
Oh,
it's some
yeah.
1,
weird.
2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And
Hmm.
it kind of kept doing this. There was some variation, like mainly sort of the top line instruments, right?
Yeah, eventually when you get the
Whatever. But it's,
Oh, yeah. So this is earlier, Chrysanthi, you
mhm.
mentioned something interesting, which was like, how is it that they all can't hear each other and yet they still manage to play at the same time? And I think it's actually a trick of the composition because you can kind of see how so like with letters wrote out the names of the notes there, but
hmm
like
hmm
a lot of times the end of the ba 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 would, that was in the wrong key, sorry, would line up exactly with the beginning of, so basically the end of the phrase
Yeah.
can harmonize perfectly with the beginning of the phrase. Therefore, it almost doesn't
Mm.
matter where you are in the phrase, you'll be doing something right, which is very interesting, I think,
Wait,
and
wait.
very
I don't
clever.
follow. I don't follow what you mean there.
Yeah, totally. So like if you look at those letters where it says E, F sharp,
Yeah.
G, B, A, C, B,
Mm-hmm.
and then above there's that E, F sharp, G,
hmm
which often that's often like the flute part will come in playing E, F sharp, G over the G,
Oh, oh, oh.
B, A, C, B, and um, and that is what creates an E, F sharp, G is the beginning of the phrase. So
Okay. I mean that
does it
works
make sense?
because the chord the chords go back and forth. Like it's not like you're kind of just toggling between 2 chords. So it's almost like a round. Like if you jump in
Hmm.
on the third one here, you're still at the same place that you were when you
Yeah.
started the first one, right? So it's like
Yeah,
1, 2,
totally.
2, 3. All the odd numbers are are an E, and all the even numbers are a D,
hmm
or E minor D. Um, yeah,
Totally.
yeah. It was
Which
like
is
the simplicity of it made perfect sense for the level of musicians and the nature of what it was doing. Like a sort of meditative,
yeah,
pulsy. It's almost like a
and
canon. Yeah,
while they
exactly.
Yeah.
K-pop times.
yeah, and while they're like
Hmm.
obviously very different pieces of music, it kind of now that you're mentioning that, Christina, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Andor theme.
That's what I
How
thought it
it
was. I thought it was the Andor theme,
I'm
diegetic
and I'm happy it
sounds.
wasn't. I'm very happy it wasn't. Um, like it didn't like materialize itself diegetically into the world kind of a thing. I'm happy it was a very different thing.
Re-
Um, but it just like the idea of it being able to kind of wrap up on itself
Huh.
and be like continuous and
Yeah.
ongoing, and it just kind of keeps rising and rising even though it's the same thing and the same thing, and you can bring something in lower. I don't know, it kind of they both structurally kind of work for me that way.
So when I first watched this episode, it was almost distracting for me how much it was the Andor theme to me. Like to me, I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, "This is the Andor theme," and even though it didn't fully exactly do the Andor theme, I really felt very aware the whole time that I was like, "Oh my gosh, the Andor theme went diegetic. Oh my gosh!" And it wasn't until later where I was like, "Okay, okay, they're separate things. I don't have to. I don't have to. I don't have to do that." But like it really felt like And I know the ironic thing is that this was written first, and so I feel like the Andor theme was kind of almost based on this, but not really. I think it's just Nicholas Britell's style in a way.
Yeah.
But it really did feel like it felt like the Andor theme, especially when the triplets come in later.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Oh,
was like, oh my
totally.
gosh.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It felt, I like that you said that, and it gave me the idea that, so for me, what this episode really meant partially was that Andor is actually the Andor family, not Cassian
Yeah.
Andor. It's
Hmm.
actually
Hmm.
Marva, it's Clem, it's Andor, it's as Nemec said in his manifesto, every instance of the rebellion is meaningful in some way. And Clem dies on Rick's Road trying to make sure peace happens at some sort of event. Marva, we've got her funeral happening. We've got Andor. It would be fascinating to wonder if the funeral march is kind of, I mean, while I guess it's obviously a song that they all know, but in a way it's sort of like Marva's theme, maybe, and then maybe
Hmm.
similar to how Andor is Marva's child. Uh, the Andor theme is the child of this funeral march.
Yeah, I mean, now that you
Could be
say
the
that, I'm
case.
like, oh my gosh, of course. Like Andor, like Cassian's not the only Andor. In fact, when she was introducing herself in the hologram, I was like, Marva, whatever, Andor. I was like, oh yeah, Andor. Oh yeah, she's an Andor. That's right.
Xanthe,
Um,
what app is this that you're using?
mm,
Application, this music paper.
oh, well, I the app doesn't. It's a notebook app called GoodNotes on the iPad,
Oh,
and
okay.
I uploaded my own sheet. Like I uploaded a template of sheet music.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Otherwise,
Okay,
it's like dot
just
paper
curious.
and whatever. Yeah, yeah,
Who's the cool kid?
yeah. I forgot why I put this up there, but okay, it's here if examples arise. Okay. So now we can continue looking at Christina's outline. Yes. Okay.
And at this point, I had less time, so my outline is not as quite as amazing. But the B section then is what came next. It was not the same material as the March slash Dirge. I'm glad you brought up the word Dirge, Justin.
Hmm.
That would be like the correct word for sure. But it did have kind of this weird, like I actually missed the B section the first time. I thought that what I've got down there as A prime was B. But it's just kind of this whimsical thing where all of a sudden they're just kind of doing like kind of faster stuff, but it still wasn't yet the like we're about to do something march. And it also felt like kind of it, G major-ish. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's
I can play
reasonable
it.
to say
I will
and
show you. I will.
accurate. Do you have it?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes. Well, I mean, I
Seems
have
like
it. I
high
have it
French.
in my notes. Okay, okay.
Seems like high French horns
My
and like
serial
low
killer
flutes
notes.
playing together, kind of a thing. Haha.
We've been
So first, after okay,
sleeping.
so after a big round of this. Oops, sorry. There was this sort of couple pivot chords. It was like,
Hmm.
and then there was kind of a. Do I have enough notes on this keyboard? Okay, okay. Oh, my handwriting. Oh my god. I ran out of notes.
Look at that.
Anyway, is that the whimsical part you're talking about?
Yes,
Okay, good.
and it even further supports my ideas about Beethoven, so I'll bring that later. Uh, love to be validated.
Oh, which string quartet? The pivot chord reminds me of Schubert's string quartet. Which string quartet are you talking
Which
about?
one?
Folk Engine? Death and the Maiden?
I know.
I'm just kidding. Maybe.
Um,
Unless. Okay. Continue,
yeah,
Christina. I'm just
yeah, that
supporting
was a
your
nice little
form
section.
with, details.
No, that's
Okay.
great because I didn't include any of those details except my attempt at listing some notes. And
Perfect.
then, so in when we talk about musical form, we typically assign, so like the main theme is usually A, the A theme.
Mhm.
Whatever the
It's
next
like
thing
poetry, everyone.
is yeah, okay, it works the same way in poetry, yes, yes. And then the B theme, and then if you come back to the A theme, but it's a little bit different, it becomes A prime. And then if you do it again, but it's a little different, it's A double prime.
Hmm.
Uh, and you can add as many primes. And a prime is just an apostrophe. That's how you indicate A
Yes.
prime.
Hmm.
So I felt like the next section was an A prime. It was basically the same as the funeral march theme, but with a different instead of being a slow chorale dirge orchestration, it's more of a okay, now we're like the pulse changed, the and then they just really heightened the interval of the third. That
Mm.
like I feel like that's the main thing in the theme is that it's always moving in thirds. It's always going from E to G or G to B. That's what it's always doing. Yeah, yeah. Like of course there's stuff in the middle, but so yeah, they're just doing 30 things faster, more pulsing, building up to the final stone and sky.
Hmm. Hmm. Which is when it got really, let's see, the faster. I see. Let me extend your notes. Here we go. All right. What have you written here? Do, do,
Here I
do,
was just
do,
showing
do,
that they're
do.
kind of like moving between thirds
Oh, okay, okay.
and then showing that this is like the proper this is a different kind of march. I don't know what you
Mm.
call a faster march. I don't know the word for that.
Probably just a faster march.
Quick march. Yeah, right. I love it.
Like I feel like
Yeah,
there
like
was
a,
oh
Poco
I know yeah it was
Piomoso? Right. Yes. It went triplety on us. And this was about at the 30. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it goes on and on and on and on. Yep.
Yeah, and then it kind of did the
That's
layer.
great.
It was so similar to the main theme, really. Um, and then like while that was happening, like it's like it kind of like keeps doing the chord loop.
Hmm.
The E
Yeah,
minor D,
it
And
E
was
minor
great.
D. Yeah.
It
and
was
what's
kind of like
interesting, what I liked about it too is that when it got to them chanting "Stone and Sky," we get this like, and if James was here, he could really explain this better than I could. This polyrhythm of the two, because the band stays in this 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, and everyone's chanting "Stone and Sky, Stone and Sky, Stone and Sky." So you're going yeah, but
Mm-hmm.
you get this kind of like
Yeah.
weird yeah that to get at that to get at
oh
that to get at thing
Yeah.
kind of
Oh,
thing.
yeah. That's a great
Um,
point. And
thanks, K-pop times.
and the movement that happened there, like when they start playing it, it's like, didn't they all kind of like go in together? Like they kind of, I don't know. It was so fascinating watching this like ritual or whatnot. Like that they all knew to go to this next section, and that's when the stone really started. The stone stuff started really picking up,
hmm
and they were kind of there was like more movement, and that combined with the chanting and the rhythm. I don't know. I always feel like it when there's that not incongruity, but just the whatever you want to call it, the hemiola. The
Yeah.
2 against 3 thing. It kind of makes it's sort of like rubbing sticks together. It's like somehow it feels more sparky to me. Carol of the Bells,
hmm
true. Yeah, that's true.
Um, that's
Ding.
as you were outlining that, Chrysanthi, I um, it really made me think in terms of practicality.
Hmm.
Uh, so we were talking earlier about how it's unlikely that the bell toll was timed with the music because of the distance.
Yeah.
So the form that they use shows that. So it starts out, there's no way that they could possibly be, they're all really far apart. But once the A prime section starts, that faster pulse, that's when they're all there. They're pretty much there.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily, yeah, they're all in the same space, and there's no way they
Great
could
point.
have done that unless they had already been in the same space. So that's really the marker for when they start that section, is when they go to the same space. And actually, there is a delicious little BMO sound right there. Who
Right?
Oh my
I think
gosh,
BMO
Bebo.
cues the start of that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
That's how
he
it felt to
he
me.
In our hearts, he
BMO
did.
does. It's very not in time, and you would never be able to catch that cue. But yes, he does do it. As someone who has been in marching bands and who was once a drum major, no, that cue meant nothing, but it was a
Nice.
cue, and we took it.
It was for
Yeah.
us.
It's
Excellent point.
adorable.
Excellent point. Excellent point.
BMO.
I
Um,
love BMO.
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and we just kind of drone on that E. It kind of ended on so didn't it kind of culminate with, so we talked about the rhythmic culmination in terms of Stone and Sky creating a polyrhythm with the drums. At the same time, the instrumentation was really just, didn't it just kind of build up to kind of like a held E and B fifth? Just everybody's picking one of those notes and playing them. Is that right?
I would have.
I feel like,
Let me see if it's in my notes. Let's see. Um, does it
Oh
end on the
yeah,
E?
Matt, that's totally. I've
Yeah.
been looking for it ever since you mentioned it, Matt. Fab, sorry. The Marva's motif. Yeah, I've been.
Yeah.
That's totally
Yeah.
it.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to, like,
oh,
I'm
I was
hearing
never
it. I'm
listening
hearing
for
it at the in
Marvis.
the track called "Past Present Suite."
Yeah, that's what
Past
he
slash
says.
present suite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yep, there it is. Yep, 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 yep.
So you're saying the triplet thing is Marva's motif?
Yep, 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 yep. Or at least
oh,
it's
But it's
yeah.
chill.
also such a um I feel I am not I'm gonna have to listen to this for myself. I'm gonna have to listen to this. So but Matthew said that Tony that they confirmed that that is Marva's music. See, here's the thing, like, okay, yeah, composer Nicholas Britell said that there's a cycling flute melody that is Marva's motif, which was used in the score for episode 3. Okay. Okay. See, okay, here is a I love the score to the show. I love this show, but when you have a motif that is so like non-specific, it is hard to catch
Yeah.
and hard to really emotionally connect that motif with a character without having lots of misfires as well, because a triplety thing of that nature also I feel appears throughout the show, and I feel like not just when Marva is there. I feel like it's just an accompanimental figure that is really
Yeah.
common to the Andor theme. However, now that Christina has kind of reminded me that Andor encompasses Marva too, now it's kind of also making me just rethink my previous framing. So I don't know. There's no conclusion to
It's
that statement, but yeah, now this show feels more like Marva feels. I'm gonna rewatch this series with feeling more of Marva's presence, basically.
Yeah.
yeah. I
I'm kind of I'm hearing it also in the same kind of motif in the track called Rick's Road.
Hmm.
Um, from the first 4 episodes, it's the same. So
Yeah.
it definitely changes in the march to fit the march better, but I can see the connection. I can hear like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. These are very like, not just if they're both the same motif, they definitely like grew from one another kind of a thing
yeah.
versus like two distinctly different da 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 da's in the show. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're definitely following some of the same path.
So I feel like the use
Absolutely.
of diegetic music in this pretty long stretch of time, pretty long stretch of time,
Hmm.
in like a climax in this episode where so many things are happening, which is not an uncommon way to end a series or end a season, to have kind of everyone
Hmm.
know meets up at the same place because all the stories lead to the, that makes sense. Okay. I'm not going
Yeah,
to rag
yeah.
on Book of Boba Fett, but obviously that's the most recent
But
example of that happening. And those kinds of everything converges events usually don't do it for me. They're they're just harder. They're just harder for me because there's so many things happening at once. Like I really like the just the really focused stories, the really focused things. Um, but we can't have that all the time. And so I feel like having the diegetic music for this kind of tied it together more than it would have been if it were just normal score, because
yeah,
the diegetic
Mhm.
music has the side effect, I don't know, a side effect, a byproduct of using like a song that is being played in world, is that you get a clearer sense of the way that time is passing,
hmm,
because music is, an art form that requires time to experience it. It's, how many times, I'm sure we can all relate to like doing things based on like, okay, I'm going to do this for the length of one song, or like, it's
yep,
doing anything. If you're listening to music, have instilled in you like a sense of the passage of time. If I'm running and 3 songs have passed, I'm like, okay, that was probably 10 minutes, and I just know that because of the music being played. Yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. No,
I
I hear you.
had a moment of realization when you said that, which is that the their choice to use a band, and what that really means for the episode, because I think it also goes back to, like, so it reminded me of a moment in Nemec's manifesto where he said there are entire, I can't remember what word he used, but I think he said entire bands of people, or entire like troops or companies of people who are already
Battalions,
in, battalions of people who are already
battalions
in
of
the
people.
revolution and don't know it yet. That made me think, okay, there's a band of people who are about to do something that is revolutionary, who don't even necessarily quite know that that's what they're doing yet, but that
Ooh.
is what they're doing. And that's
Hmm.
the other thing about music, is that every individual performer is important. Like, they all make up something, and that thing would not be the same without all of them.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be better at all if they were all the same or anything, or if it was just one of them cloned. Um,
Yeah, and
it,
another
I just, yeah,
and another thing with music is that some people don't want to play if they're not like professional, or if they're not haven't practiced enough or whatever. And so having it be sort of like a community thing where it's like, come as you are, like, try your best, but like, that's how rebellions and revolutions and everything. They're not all like hired by the empire. They all kind of have their own set of skills and kind of all need to work together and make the most of who they are. And I feel like
Yeah,
this band was such a great like metaphor for that.
absolutely.
absolutely.
It's wonderful.
Probably like the best music metaphor we've had in Star Wars. Not that I could think of that many music metaphors. So it can be the best and the only. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
The the symbolic, the sort of like the imagery in this whole scene, it felt like familiar because we've had lots of Star Wars musicians, right? We've had, we have Max Rebo band, we have lots of bands.
Hmm.
And then also with Marva, we have lots of holograms, but they were both utilized in a way that I feel like we have barely ever experienced before. Like they were both used in very unusual kind of new ways. Like the
Yeah,
band, like we talked about, and then with the hologram, it wasn't just to like talk to someone real time, or it wasn't like I don't know, it just the way that whole thing played out was so like, it kind of blew my mind a little bit.
yeah. Now hold on a second here.
Hmm.
I need to put on my sound guy hat for a moment here.
Okay. Please.
BMO, B2 emo. I keep calling him BMO because to me BMO.
Because numbers don't count. Numbers aren't pronounced.
Well, right, but anybody's a fan of Adventure Time, BMO is a wonderful character. Is a talking Game Boy.
Okay.
But B2 emo has the projection of Marva, which is cool. I like for a little droid. That's a epic projection. That's a great attachment. Is the sound of Marva coming out of does B2 emo have speakers like a PA system built into that I mean, or is there like what is the Star Wars like Bluetooth or like digital sound protocol or something like that they could like link up to all the I'm imagining like how Disney does it with Disneyland does it with I think it's the Dante system, and everything is just linked up throughout the entire park based on like a server, and you can send anything anywhere at any time kind of a thing in like groups. Wow. But I think it's the Dante system. But yeah, like where are the I'm sorry. That's just like my one little like picky little thing. Like where's the speakers coming from? How do we hear Marva? And why does she sound so like booming over everybody? You know.
Well, I actually got the sense that like B2 emo was transmitting something to speaker. Like it sounded like the town was equipped with speakers for this event, and it was only believable because this was such a big event with so much set up.
No, that makes sense. That makes wonderful sense.
Yeah, I got the feeling there was a pre-existing sound system throughout the entire area. I got the feeling where everyone could hear clearly no matter where you were.
Oh, yeah. If only James was here. Because earlier we were joking with the anvil thing. Well, as cool as the anvil thing, in no way has this town figured out how to link up speakers, so there's just like a bell that goes through the speakers in the entire town. No, it's this ritualistic hammer and anvil thing. But no, for the funeral, we could bust out the linked up speakers.
But it makes sense. It's for the
I know.
talking.
It's just funny. Yeah. It's just funny.
C3P.
Here it is. Great technology used in bizarre ways.
What was the Disneyland speaker thing you were talking about?
I don't have.
What's it called?
I can't think of like it's called the program is called Dante.
Oh, okay.
At least I'm pretty sure if it's not the whole park, I'm pretty sure it's Galaxy Edge uses Dante.
Right. Because of
at least Galaxy Edge uses Dante, but I want to say the whole park does. Yeah. I could be very, very wrong.
I remember us talking about that the last time we were at Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, but Dante's a really cool system that you can get today for your own applications.
Yeah. I think C3P Sonos was a joke, but that was about to be really funny.
C3P Sonos.
It's a good one.
Yeah. So, okay. So this band situation, is there anything else that we, let's see, I want to make sure. Community bands and orchestras are the best, says Folk Engine. Agreed.
Yes.
Agreed. And I love the inclusion of that in Star Wars, because we've only had the professional giggers so far, right? Like,
that's true.
I think. Or really soloists who are just, playing on their own. So this was just so great. Also, K-pop Times. Next I want to see Star Wars violins. Look, I have been wanting this for so long. One day. And maybe if they need someone to record, I'm available.
Before we move on to another scene, I'm going to propose that Beethoven's Seventh Symphony is extremely similar to this whole thing. And I'm not necessarily saying that Nicholas Britell like took it from Beethoven or anything like that. Kind of like we were talking about earlier, you really can't act like a third is a theme. You really can't act like some of the
Right, right,
things
right,
in
right,
here, like not only are they common in Star Wars and in Andor, they're
right,
common in all of the world.
right, right, right.
There's yeah, so they're like really common themes.
Right. Like if this
So
is your like, yeah, if your theme is
yeah, you can't.
that,
Yeah, that's you can't act like that's yours, or yeah,
so
you
can you
can't.
talk more about the Beethoven connection? And also, I want to clarify before we start: are you talking specifically of the second movement?
I am talking about the second movement
Okay.
of the Seventh Symphony.
Okay.
So the second movement of Beethoven's symphony is nicknamed Funeral, or Funerale, if you want to pronounce the e at the end, and it's an A minor, and it has a. So I made kind of like four big similarities. So the first, I sent you a link to it on YouTube. I don't know if you're allowed to play that
I
on
yeah,
our.
I think that I think it will
You're
stop the
definitely
stream.
not.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
everyone, you
totally.
should
No
look up
worries.
Beethoven's Seventh Symphony,
Totally.
the Allegretto movement. Also, well, we could. It's
Yeah. The
wait, the chords. I know. I remember the chord. The first chord is like the chords are like in first, second inversion.
yeah. If you look at 1 minute 30 seconds in,
Yeah,
you can kind of see all the themes together.
yeah.
I think you can at least. So I find that page helpful. Also, none of them are in viola clef.
Viola clef.
Sorry.
Why would we need a
I
viola
know that
clef?
wasn't the right word, but I just mean
I'm
I
just
don't
kidding.
have to
I'm just
transpose.
throwing viola shade. I'm totally kidding. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh, you feel defensive? Um,
Never. I would never.
you have that
As a
ready?
violinist, I would never have to feel defensive. I'm just kidding. Oh, being so mean. I am kidding though.
We love violas.
I am kidding. There's just historical jokey drama between violinists and violas, but it's not really a thing. So your
True.
people, you probably already recognize this piece. It goes. And then I'm probably in the wrong key. And then it's like
Da-dum-ba-bum.
yeah.
Hmm.
I just did like multiple keys. I'm sorry. But like it is the layers kind of join yeah, like what you were saying.
Totally.
About a
So
minute into it you can really hear it.
yeah. So that melody is basically things going ba 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 ba, and then basically going up. I don't know if that was the third, but basically going up intervals of thirds with little stepping stones in between, just as the funeral melody is. Similarly, it's all based on a concept of a fifth. The full phrase is kind of framed with a fifth,
Mm-hmm.
and that's I would say a similarity between the Beethoven theme and the funeral theme, and then the and I would kind of just call that the gestures, like three note gestures that are always ending on a tonic or a dominant,
Hmm.
that are always it's ba 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 ba, or um, things like that, and so that is one thing, the kind of tonic and dominant thing. The next thing is
So tonic is the
earlier.
1 of the key and dominant is the 5 of the key, the fifth note, like in order of the notes. Like so A would be 1 and then A, B, C, D, E would be 5. That's all that means.
Mhm, absolutely. And there's another fantastic thing that's really similar. So earlier we were talking about how it's just kind of interesting that the Marva's funeral march kind of acts like a round, how you can kind of just put any part of it on top of itself. And that is how this
Mm.
Beethoven theme works. He just
Totally
straight
true.
up puts it on top of itself in all sorts of different ways, and it always works in various instrumentations. That is exactly what he does. And that comes back to the next similarity, which is the overall form of the piece. Both Beethoven's and Marva's themes start with kind of just a repeating drone, where it's just kind of a note, the
Mm.
tonic and the dominant being played, the one and the five. And then they repeat and they grow, they repeat and they grow, and then they culminate. That's kind of the overall form. Uh, and there's never anything particularly different that comes in. It's just different versions of the same kind of melodic and chordal content. Uh, and then the final similarity is, of course, really subjective because it's just the feeling of the piece. I think both of them have a really strong, the three words that come to mind are hope, determination, and finality. While they're funeral
Mm.
songs, there's something really hopeful about them. And the sense of determination and the pacing of, I mean, in the Beethoven, he doesn't have a drum really, but he really makes sure that the basses
The
are like,
rhythm is
bah,
very
bah,
yeah, yeah.
bah, 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 bah. They basically don't stop doing that. Um, and yeah, I just wanted to say I love Beethoven's Funeral March. I'm a huge fan of any sort of funeral march. Um, and so,
Yeah.
yes.
So
I dig it.
this rhythm is the da da da.
Mhm.
So this whole oh god, this whole thing was da 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 da, and that's very da 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 da. Yeah.
Totally. Um, yeah, and the melodies were just very similar. And it also is true that in one other thing that I had thought of while we were talking about this. So when Marva's theme came in during the
Mm.
march, and it's just like a little faster, a little more whimsical, a little da 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 kind of thing.
Yeah.
The second melody that comes in for this song
Yeah.
is also similarly whimsical,
I always thought
like
it was
almost
like,
whimsical. It's ba da 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 da
oh, that you're talking
ba
about
da
that.
da 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 it's that's kind of how it is, and I feel like that is also kind of similar to how Marva's theme brings in this nice whimsical leaf floating in the wind pretty thing that you wouldn't think makes sense in a funeral dirge, but it does.
I love it.
My coordination is a little bit
You
struggling.
being able to even start that is amazing. Yeah,
Thanks.
because
Yeah.
I think playing them both at the same time is just really difficult.
Thank you. I think this is what you're talking about.
And then they move to harmony.
Yeah, it kind of keeps going and going. It's very fun to play. Lots of orchestras play it. Everyone loves the second movement. It's very popular. This was the first piece I ever conducted and the last piece I ever conducted because that's not my talent. But that yeah, it's a super beautiful piece. Like Beethoven had a hit on his hands with the second movement here.
Oh yeah.
He did.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
thank you for
So
thanks everyone for the hope you enjoyed that little Beethoven lesson. Go listen to Beethoven's second movement. In fact, I'm sure you've already heard it in a ton of films. In fact,
mhm.
the next episode of Star Wars Music Minute, I feel like we're in the episode that comes out tomorrow about Empire Strikes Back, minutes 11 through 15. We have a Beethoven seventh Allegretto reference in it as well. So we're talking about it in reference to Empire Strikes Back. So it's like this piece, you can find echoes of it everywhere. It's super like a cornerstone piece. It's like probably on every top 100 classical list. Yeah. Anyway, okay, yay. Never throwing Beethoven shade, never. Okay, performed Beethoven 7th with Kent Nagano and the Oakland Youth Orchestra, my first orchestra. What do you play? Folk engine. We
Woo.
need a viola joke episode. Um, exactly.
That's every episode.
That's how it goes. Yes. Thanks for that, Christina. That's awesome.
Thanks for listening.
So B2 emo, when B2 emo gets knocked over.
I was about to throw some punches at the screen. I was so angry. You do not touch and hurt my precious B2 emo.
I feel
No,
like
you don't.
Justin and Alex from Star Wars Explained are both very protective of B2 emo.
I'm
And
so
I love
protective
it.
of that little thing. That was awful, and it's such an interesting like moment in Star Wars, like this, especially this shows. You get B2 emo projecting the final message of Marva, we'll call it that, and she, it's. I'm looking at this at a very like horrifically unbiased view of like just the surface level here. The Empire is on Ferrix. We've asked for a funeral, or they've asked for a funeral. The Empire is like, we're not going to give it to you, but now it's being used as a plot to get Andor, so there's all this reason. It's a cultural community thing for them. We're just going to let them do it so that they can be in our plot, right? Sorry, tripped there on my chair. Slipped on the arm. And Marva comes on. It's already more people than they said it was gonna be, which as an event person, I'm like, oh my goodness, where are all these people coming from? It's like, this wasn't the agreement. We said 40 people, and you brought 200. You brought 200, but, of course, they have essentially, riot police.
Yeah.
Right there with these riot shields,
topical.
which was right, and so then all these people show up. We're gonna the standoff between marching band community and a community of people and this riot police.
Band nerds versus
band nerds versus
cops.
Right? Versus cops. We project Marva, and she uses it as a chance for, if you want to look at it as like riling up the revolution and things like that, great. If you want to look at it as a political statement, using her time for a political statement, sure. To which is insulting the Empire in front of the Empire, which we're like, in our hearts, yay, get them! But the Empire people are standing there listening to this. Nothing's going to plan. Nothing's working. Deidre isn't to be seen. The guy's like, you know what? Screw this. And tosses, B2 emo, which then causes the fight. So it's like, it was just this big ramp up from both sides to eventually turn into a bomb. Someone throws a bomb kind of a thing. It was wild. It was,
and
that was the escalation to the point when then after the bomb throw, that's when they said open fire. Like, it wasn't before that. It wasn't like it reminded me of, if anyone's a fan, or not a fan, but like knowledgeable about United States history. We have the Boston Massacre that happened, which was famously over propagandized of what actually went on during that time.
That was a big point in our textbooks too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yes, they opened fire, but yes, they were threatened, and you whatever side of it you're on, it's kind of a thing. But it's like, here it is playing out in real time. Like, it was a very powerful moment, I would say.
And Marva's speech, like, it mobilized people to the point where, when one of their most defenseless, of their own is threatened, they're like, that's like a tipping point. That's like, screw you. Like, you're just a little droid. Like, how dare you, It's
like having this small child out front, and someone just comes out and decks the child, and like, everyone just goes crazy. What the heck,
Yeah.
That would have been good, Matthew. Yeah, I see your comment there.
I was expecting Marva to ask.
I liked that. What was it, Brasso? Like, smacked the guy's head with Marva's
Oh
brick.
my God, Brasso.
And he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, he's holding it up. Marva got her shot in, kind of a thing. Um, the entire time though, I was thinking, because we see the bomb being built in the beginning of the episode to very like tense music and secretive, like, oh, clearly this is something happening. And then I kept thinking, I can't remember who said it on our chat, but they mentioned like, I think that Marva's body is actually bombs. Like it's
Oh
all a
yeah, someone did
ruse.
say that.
I
Yeah,
kept
yeah.
thinking that like Marva was gonna show up, kind of a thing, that she wasn't dead, or I was getting really scared that they put the bomb inside of B2 Emo, because that'd be totally something this show would do. You know what I mean? Like he's that important because we're gonna use him. We're gonna use B2 Emo to like this innocent poor little thing, and we're gonna blow up the hotel. Um, Sorry, that this is my past conspiracy theories. Seeing as I can't project into the future right now, too much.
So the so last week we were wondering whether Marva was actually dead, and
Hmm.
she she was, but I wasn't expecting what happened in this episode, which was that like she still like we still get to see her. She still does have messages to get out. And so I thought that was a
Yeah,
really I don't know, that was such an I felt so many things about that hologram speech. It
Hmm.
First of all, like the speech itself, I was like definitely cheering her on for sure. She said so many important things, but also just the concept of knowing that you're dying and then recording your speech, like addressing the crowd as you're already dead, like that is a lot to wrap my head around. And also, I don't know, Marva wheezing in that.
yeah,
I, how did I just how did she know that she was like so close to dying? I don't know. Just you have an answer? Okay.
Because she stopped taking her medication so she could sense it. I think that's
True.
part of it.
mm,
Okay. Okay.
It helps.
That's true. That's true. But it's kind of when you take medication, I feel like you're not
Yeah.
it's not necessarily like your medication if you don't it's terminal within a week or something. And she had this okay, I don't know that much about the strength one has when one is really close to death, but I don't know. She seemed very lucid, and I don't know. I guess I don't want to make like assumptions about what she was and wasn't able to do, but I guess I'm just sort of thinking about how she timed that so
mm,
perfectly. Um, yeah, like why would you do it? Why would you record your speech today and not next week? You know, just like, um, yeah, I don't know.
I
And also just like
I sort of
as an asthmatic who like does wheeze, I'm like it made me feel like, well, she's just wheezing. Like take your inhaler. I was just like, she can't be dying because that makes me scared for when I wheeze.
mm.
uh, I I bet that she had like some sort of more serious something that's making me think of pneumonia kind of situation going on. Yes, Ziggy is coming out in force. She's not being good anymore. Um, yeah, I feel like that was the case, and I also, I mean, of course, we don't know because we don't really get any insights into what Marva was thinking for many episodes now. But
Mm.
we, other than her message to Cassian, which told him that he's the spark, that he didn't necessarily want, like she. I feel like what I'm getting at is I think it's possible that she knew it was important to her to do something important for the as a rebellion, and we really the last thing we see her do is where like everybody's like, oh, she hurt her leg falling because she was trying to get a grate off of a building, like to do something against the Empire. And I have a feeling maybe she was just like, I'm just one person. Like, what can I do? And then
Mhm.
maybe the obvious answer came to her. if I die, I get to have a funeral and I
Yeah.
get to be, and my message gets to be projected throughout the city. That's really
Hmm.
significant. And she obviously knew that that was what would happen, or, what would, if the Empire approved the permit, because she'd been to so many funerals. And she talked about that in her speech, um, how the dead of all of the funerals that she had been to inspired her, and how she took
Yeah.
so much from each one of those experiences. And I just feel like she kind of knew that that's exactly what would happen. And she thought, well, what is the absolute best thing that I can do is, and okay, like, I'm going to stop taking my medicine. I'm going to, we don't know what her conditions were, but maybe it was something kind of like pneumonia or something like that, where like once you really get to a certain level, like you can kind of predict what's going to happen. And and she could have recorded that speech pretty early on as well.
Hmm.
Like it's not like she definitely recorded it that week. We technically don't know when she recorded it.
Yeah.
She clearly could stand, so she must not have had a broken leg or anything by that time,
Yeah.
if that's what she broke.
Matthew says in earlier episodes when daughters of Ferrix were seen and mentioned, I think that's when Marva recorded her message. And that
Hmm.
makes sense. I'm trying to remember exactly when that was because I
Mm.
remember the daughters of Ferrix showed up when she died, but maybe they were already had already been there
Just before,
just before
I
then.
think the first time we saw them, it was, and
Oh,
I
when
think it was from
she hasn't taken her
them. They
medicine.
were the ones saying that she wasn't taking her medicine. Yeah, yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah,
That makes
yeah.
sense.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. I mean, I think it's this
And we
town.
got it from Cinta's point of view.
Yes,
Hmm.
Santa. Yeah.
Oh, Xanthe.
This the way that they face death in this town and I don't know this society, this culture. Um, I guess the way that this town, whatever Ferrix is it a town? The way that Ferrix takes care of each other, like felt very I don't know, felt very unusual. Not really, because I think of like Ryloth, I think of other just Ferrix is such a small place and with such a very specific like set of customs and just a specific
Hmm.
really unique look to this funerary like I don't know what I'm saying is like okay this person this town is small enough that one citizen could have such a mark could be such an important figure and it's not like she's mayor or something she used to be president of the daughters of Ferrix but still I mean this is a town that has like a bell tower communication
Yeah.
system and to know that like people are keeping tabs on her health like and to know that they had to have the awareness that she might be dying soon and so since she's important she will be part of this custom and that they must record this message there's no sort of like brushing the facts of life under the rug I guess like I can imagine
Mhm.
that being harder to do in other societies like I don't know like
Yeah.
hey you're gonna die you should record your message now.
Yeah, this would never work on Coruscant. Um, but yeah, they live a hard life. It seems very clear. Like that's the look of the people of Ferrix. It's kind of like is it a mining and metal making community? Is that what it is?
I think so.
It's a good question.
It felt like in the beginning, the earlier episodes, they were like stripping parts from ships. Like it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like
And
a part
whenever
mining, like recycling almost.
that could be the case for sure. I also feel like when we got to see and hear Dedra's Lambda class shuttle fly into
Uh
Ferrix,
huh.
there were these giant structures that we could see that
Yeah.
I felt like, huh, I wonder if those are mines. Like I don't know why else there would be like giant rock
Hmm.
structures that look like that. It just seemed kind of strange. I mean, of course, there's tons of landscape features, but I guess just to go back to what you're saying, Xanthe, is yeah, like I think these people, like clearly their lives, like clearly people die at a pretty frequent rate in this society, I think. Like they've got the. I just feel like there's a lot of symbols of people who
Mortality.
have been, yeah, of fatality,
Yeah.
and therefore just in the customs and culture that comes out of a world like that, are they match it.
It almost looks like there's an oil, like I know it's an oil
Yeah, it looks
rig.
like an oil rig or
It
something,
look like something there, up there.
which are very dangerous and have high mortality rates,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
And she does say in her speech, like, um, the Empire, basically they left us alone, we were sleeping, etc.
Yeah, like
We kept the trade lanes open and they left us
Hmm.
alone. We took their money and ignored them. So they had something that the Empire wanted and they kind of played along.
mhm,
We kept their engines churning. Maybe it is
Yeah.
oil.
kept their
Okay,
engines
space
churning.
oil.
Yeah.
And the moment they pulled away, we forgot them.
Space oil.
Ferrix seems to be mainly scrapping old ships from the Clone Wars. Ah, okay.
Which makes sense.
Oh, okay, okay. Which weren't that long ago. Sorry. I mean,
Yeah,
I guess they weren't. I just.
yeah. So, other stuff happening. There was also diegetic music at the pub with Zanwe,
Yeah.
with Xanthe.
Hmm. I
Zanwe.
missed
Yeah, in the original concept art, Ferrix is supposed to be where they scrapped old Republic ships. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so there's brief diegetic music there at the pub.
Hmm.
And then, let's see. Oh, yeah, there's diegetic music when we're in Mon Mothma's car, vehicle.
Yeah, we heard
And Perrin,
we
yeah,
that.
from outside with Perrin's walking
yeah,
in. Yeah.
which was a nice reveal that the guy's been listening this entire time. I
Yeah.
like that the private control for private speech is controlled by the driver and not from
I
like
know.
the side that needs
I
to be
know.
private.
I know. Who would,
I thought that was interesting.
spy or not, like, who would, he'd be like,
Who
okay,
would
sure,
design
sure,
a
sure,
car like
whatever.
that? Yeah. Um, yeah, that was. And we heard a little. Oh, was it there or no? It was later. We got a little reprise. I wish I. My studio's obviously not up and running quite yet, but
Mhm.
it. We had a little reprise of a sound that we would hear a lot during Mon Martha's car rides.
Yeah.
There's like this like synth.
Yeah, it was
Kinda,
at 9:23, and it was sort of like
mm-hmm.
an implied Mothma theme coming
Yeah,
in.
little
Hmm.
Mothma thing tune coming in, um, which was interesting.
Yeah. Um, we didn't hear, there were a lot of themes that we, well, there aren't that many themes in this show, but we'd also heard a little bit of an ISB stinger
Yes.
when this isn't a dialogue, Dedra. Dedra in this episode was sort of like, well, obviously not very active, and also sort of like, if in previous episodes she was being, she was rising, in this episode I feel like she was falling.
Hmm.
Yeah, she's been building herself up, and she doesn't. No matter yeah,
She was
she's
undermined
not
a lot
she
in this episode.
totally undermined, and definitely doesn't. Despite having risen the ranks, is very much not there yet.
Yeah.
And I liked seeing these Imperial officers have almost like no combat training and are now forced in a situation where they actually have to fight and survive and are kind of incompetent. Because Deidre was kind of taken out pretty quick. And a couple, and I love when Cyril saved her, and she's terrified. Like, oh my goodness, what did I just live through? What did I just live through? And why does this guy keep stalking me but saved my life? Why is he here of all places? And his answer is, you needed help. Like, what are you doing? You needed help. What what are
Okay,
you
wait.
doing
Okay,
here?
wait. What do you think of that scene? Wait, I'm seeing so many people learn the phrase diegetic music here. Well, I'm so glad. I'm
Yeah.
very glad to hear that. Okay, so Dedra Cyril. Okay, what do we think?
Oh my goodness, that's gonna
What was
be
that sexual
either.
tension there?
I know this is gonna be a twisted relationship right later. It's gonna be
Hmm.
wild.
That was some heavy breathing.
I was some like I was like, oh my goodness, don't are they gonna kiss?
I'm so
Nope.
glad they didn't. But
I'm glad they didn't. This is gonna lead to something.
It must
We
be
heard.
the first. Oh, keep going.
Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, I was gonna
You were
jump
gonna
off
jump to another
tracks and
place.
like with Dedra, we did hear some ISB music
yeah.
at the beginning of the episode
Yeah.
when she
Yeah,
was
yeah, true,
popping
true,
when
true.
she was hopping off the or just arriving at like a storm night Ferrix. I didn't even recognize it as Ferrix at first. I was like, where are we?
And that reminds me, the opening theme, we've already discussed how the opening theme sort of reflects what the episode is going to be about. So the opening theme did have that marching band, brassy,
Yeah, it just
and
was the marching band,
yeah.
Yeah,
And so
right?
and but oh no, go ahead. Yeah, sorry, I'm
yeah,
excited
before,
about
since
that too.
like my notes say Portsmouth Symphonia, like, because it was before I knew that was like actually going to be part of the episode. So,
Yeah,
Same
and
here.
that just goes to show. It goes to show how much awesome stuff this episode has that we haven't. We're almost 2 hours in now, and we like haven't like we only just now brought up the opening credits.
Right? Yeah, I didn't when the opening credits came in. I was like, wow, they're really going for that out of tune thing, like with the because all this whole series we've been talking about this wavy out of tuneness to the score, and I'm hearing this like, dang, they're really going deep into this out of tune thing, and it becomes this brass band. Towards the end, I kind of caught it right,
yeah.
and then once the marching band came on, I was like, oh, I see. It
Yeah.
was the band. But there's another theme in there that's kind of been growing in the last couple episodes. It's that like da 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 kind of a thing. It appears at the very beginning of this. It's like it combines with the Andor theme, right?
Like after it or during it.
Kind of a thing.
Yeah. I think we
That
talked about that in a
that
previous
hasn't been in
episode.
earlier versions.
I feel like in the theme specifically.
Yeah, like this time it actually appeared alongside with the theme. Da, da, da,
Yeah, you're right. Where else did
da,
we
da,
hear that? I know
da.
we talked about it.
There's I remember hearing it in an early one of these, just like literally the last couple episodes. I feel like it was at the prison.
I
It might have
I
appeared.
really remember talking about it. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I see it in my notes for episode 8. Shutting it down. Oh, that's right. It was shutting it down. I'm not slipping. I'm shutting it down, and it was like. Oh no, I guess it was different. Okay, but there was. I know what you're talking about. There was that. Okay, it was Clea's Power Walk in red. This is. My notes are kind of unhinged. Yeah, it was.
Yep.
It was when Clea is walking to meet with Val after the Aldani, and she's like, "You have to kill
That was a
Cassian."
that was a really memorable scene.
Yeah.
I even like drew a picture of that scene during our last recording. Like that, I just like him. It's interesting how like striking that
Yeah. And I am
that look
fascinated by
was.
Clea, the assistant, which we already talked about this the
Yeah.
previous week. But yeah, I'm fascinated by Clea, and Vel really grew on me this season. I mean, I didn't dislike her before. I just didn't know when we were meeting her that she was going to be so. I thought her story was kind of going to end with Aldani, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
One of the only so it used to be that all of Mon Mothma scenes had this kind of awkward, not all of them, but a lot of Mon Mothma scenes had this awkward silence in them, and I feel like that wasn't the case here, but we did have a nice awkward silence, which was Vel and Cinta when
Yeah.
Vel
gosh,
arrives and
good
is
to see you
like,
too.
yeah, like they're just on such different pages, and Vel is so vulner. Vel shows so much vulnerability and how much it's really taken out of her being apart from Cinta. And Cinta, I get the feeling kind of just like, because one of the last things I remember Cinta saying to Vel too was just like, I'm pretty sure Cinta said something like,
A
what you
mirror.
like is the idea of me, like what I symbolize? Like, I feel like I think she said something like
Was that
that,
when she was
and it
like,
just
I'm a
makes
mirror, you like me because I show you what you need to see?
something like that. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I think
feel
they're on
like
different pages.
I feel like Cinta, like we haven't seen much warmth from Cinta at all. Um, and it kind of, but we have seen a lot of like close-ups on her. And like she has gotten screen time in her own way. And so it's interesting that she's not been more, I don't know, developed isn't the right word, but I feel like she must be suffering from some like major PTSD. Like
Hmm.
yeah, she's so closed off.
Yeah, and we get this. I'm listening to it right now. This crazy musical moment from her when her what was it, Corvo, the
Hmm.
under the security, the ISB undercover
Yeah,
guy,
Corv will take me.
yeah, coffee dude, Starbucks dude,
Yes.
Yeah.
always drinking coffee. When he sees Sinta and he realizes that she's been stalking him this entire time, watching him, and she straight up stabs the guy.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen that except for what was it, like a blade in Star Wars, a regular.
Like a like a knot. Yeah.
I mean, I'm
A shank.
thinking of like, okay, we have the dark saber,
We have
have,
the blades
I
in
guess
Solo.
we have the, yeah, that's right, we do have the,
Hmm.
but they were still laser tipped. Like
Okay.
this was just a straight up
Straight up
piece
knife.
of metal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and Cinta had to have it in her hand
yeah,
already. She must
yeah,
always, when she's tailing people, she must
Holy
have it
shit.
ready to stab
Cinta is
them
so
because there's
hardcore.
no, yeah.
that she just straight up stabbed Corvo, and we get this underneath. I'm listening to it again, and we get this like this synthesized dum 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 dum, like this kind of heart racing kind of beat underneath it, and then it erupts into this like almost tragic version of the Andor theme. It's like for a second I thought it was going to be the Andor theme, and then it gets kind of dark, like really kind of dark. Like this is the death of this character, almost like Cinta is
Mhm.
no longer like, maybe this was a bit of her revenge kind of a thing. Like because it's mentioned that stormtroopers wiped out her family. You know, like this is her crossing over finally. Because later on, when Vel is like, "Is that blood?" "Oh, don't
It's
worry
not
about it.
mine.
It's not mine." And it's just like Vel had this look of like, how could you kill somebody after all the stuff they just did on Altani? You know, this like, how could you just straight up like cold blooded murder someone? Um, that was wild.
Yeah.
The music there was great. It's very tragic, big crashes, and the orchestral swells up into this kind of it plays like back into all the action music going on.
Yeah. It was like doo, 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 doo.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was
Hmm.
yeah. Um it almost felt like I felt like that score it was scoring headcanon like Cinta's inner world more so than
Yeah,
like Corv, who I guess we don't really care about.
yeah, but
Um, yeah, I think Cinta is much. Matthew says I think Cinta is too much focused on revenge, with Val rushing into the smoke looking for Cinta while she is just focused on tracking and killing the ISB spy. Yeah, I don't know what is going on with Cinta, but yeah, I don't know. She's so focused on what she's doing, and I think Val just feels uh, really separate from her, really,
yeah,
um, and that definitely takes a toll on her. Speaking of the Mothmas, looks like looks like Lita
Lita's
met
gonna.
Davo's son.
She looked like she liked him. She was excited. Leda was into it, which was
But
established
she
in the
was
last scene,
smiling.
though.
But I thought, okay, what I thought was really interesting about that scene was that his back was like, it was like a reveal of his face. It was like a face
Yeah,
reveal. And so she was like, I think she was, her expression was as such before she saw him, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, well, but I felt it was also kind of a little bit of this like snide, I'm doing this against my mother's wishes, like, haha, here we go, kind of a thing. Like, this is what I believe in, and this is, I could totally tell my mom's uncomfortable with this. And to this, like, very deadpan looking rich boy, um,
I didn't
kind of
read
a
all of that
thing.
into the kids.
That's what that's what I felt. I felt she's like she's the only like even Perrin didn't look like he was into any of this.
No, Perrin did
So
not.
like he's not into Mon Mothma's pained and Lita's kind of like this is my moment of taking in charge kind of a thing. And I'm
I don't
you
know.
know
I don't know,
I
Justin.
that's what I feel. I feel like she's a lot of this is like daughter rebelling against her
I
parents
did not read
and
all of that
I
in her
see that
expression.
too.
But
yeah.
like I saw vulnerability in her expression, but also I saw like keeping up, like I saw kind of a bit of what her mother does, like sort of keeping up, like fake it till you make it, like a bit of like her decor, like it looks like she's been trained as a debutante or whatever the hell that is.
Yeah.
Like she knows how to carry herself and look a certain way and I don't know, be gracious in a certain way. And I think she's like trying to be this. I don't think at that age she could like fully be capable of like being super set in this, like, I'm going to marry this, like, first of all, we also don't know exactly, we don't know, this clearly wasn't, this was a meeting. It wasn't necessarily the wedding, but like it was a first step toward potentially that. And I feel like I can't imagine someone, even if knowing I'm doing this against my mother's will, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be, I'm part of this.
Hmm.
I'm part of this society. I'm going to go through with it. I can't imagine still not having your stomach drop a little bit out of like some sort of like when it's actually happening. I can't imagine that she was still just like super super like she must have felt butterflies. She must have felt like a little bit of second thoughts. Like there's so
Yeah.
much in her expression, I think. I mean, and
I
not
think
like because it's so. I mean, I guess that's why everyone can read what they want into it. But she's trying. She's trying more than Mothma and Perrin are. They're just like, ugh. But she is. She's trying in a way. I don't know. I feel like there is a lot of vulnerability in that. And then she sees, they're kids.
Yeah.
They're kids
that
playing.
guy,
They're kids play
that
acting
kid.
adulthood,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
they might be happy to be role playing, but they're not authentically feeling it as if they were really going through it. Like
I think that's sort of. I'm kind of. I think that while she had butterflies, I think they were like excitement butterflies of
I think so too.
performance. Because I think basically, I mean, Mon Mothma kind of said like Leda's all about. Is it Leda or Leda? Do you
Lita,
remember? It's
Lita.
Leda. Okay. That Leda's all into the religious doctrine of the
Hmm.
Chandrilan way of doing things. Like she really takes it seriously. So if that's the case, she is really excited about like receiving her birthright and like flying out of the nest and
Yeah.
finally getting away from this super claustrophobic life that her mom, being the senator, has imposed on her. And so in a way, I also think that she's probably like really excited to A, get out of the life that she doesn't totally like, but B, like I mean it's weird to us that at the age 14 is when that happens, but for them that's when this happens. Like for them, they
Yeah. Yeah.
perceive 14-year-olds as like these perfect, I'm going to use the word like, I mean, it kind of reminds me of her being, well, okay, the only thing I can really think of that's sort of similar is like the Rite of Spring or something like that. Like I feel like she's
Hmm.
really excited to be the like
The
the
Virgin.
like virgin at the center of the ceremony. Like
Hmm.
not that she's going to die at the end of it, but I think she's really excited about finally doing that because also she lives this life where like her mom is kind of always the center, like the diva, like the senator, and maybe she doesn't know how she can have a play. Like there is clearly tension between her and her mom, and probably one of the reasons for that is that the lack of space for her. But yeah, I feel like she's excited about that, and at the same time, I also feel like, I mean, I get the vibe from the kind of weird meeting that we saw her having with her friends, where they were kind of chanting the
Yeah, with the elder.
Chamberlain
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
doctrines. They
Hmm.
probably basically practice for this exact ceremony over and over again,
Yeah.
so that they sort of already even know their lines. Um,
Yeah.
it,
So I get what you're saying, but like I also feel like there's no way that she is 100% on board. I think
mm,
I think there is a part of her that is like I relate to Lita being, I get, a teenager and thinking this is like thinking, taking my steps into like an adult
Hmm.
world and whatever. And then also, and still, even though feeling kind of repressed at home and really like unhappy and everything, I still there, it, inescapable, like hard to not have a tinge of like wanting to go back to the womb. You're right, or wanting to go back to the nest in some way, or being like, oh, okay, this is maybe a little bit more than I thought I was getting myself into. There is a little bit of that push and pull, which I think is like growing up, right? But this is kind of an extreme situation, and even though this is a custom, it is not a custom with everyone. It still is sort of like it it's not like on the same level as when you're 18, you become an adult and do adult things and perhaps move out, like it maybe is in the U.S. It's more like in some parts of some parts of society or have religious rituals or other things like that. Like it's her own
Yeah.
parents. The fact that her own mom is not even like she's making a choice to do this custom. It's not inevitable that she would have to do that. So it still is like, I don't know. I think the more you add choice on top of it, the easier it is to regret your decision or feel a little bit like
Hmm.
a little bit shaky about it sometimes. I think you're right though, Christina, especially when she's mad at her parents. I feel like that's probably when she feels most on board with this. But I think I don't know. I don't know. I just oh Lita. I don't know. Are they going to move in? Does this actually mean that they leave their parents' house? We don't actually know. We don't know if it's like just a promise,
Hmm.
like an engagement. We don't know yet.
I don't know, maybe they get a villa with an infinity
Oh
pool on the
my
side of a
god.
mountain. That could happen.
Oh my god.
Um, yeah, it was nice to see how that yeah, it was really nice to see how that story I like how it, shall we say, ended in this season, and how what it promises for the next season.
Hmm.
Like it sort of wrapped up this story in a sense, where we know that there's something going on with the Skoldens and the Mothmas,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
then yeah, but we don't know exactly what. I think that's nice, and that kind of reminded me of something I was thinking. So at the very beginning of the episode, when I first watched it, um, when I started watching the review of the previous, you know how they do the
Yeah.
intro recap.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Basically, I took a note of every single thing that was mentioned in that recap, or that I could think of, all of the loose strings that we
Uh-huh.
were wondering. How are these things going to be tied or not tied in this episode? And it was a very long list. I listed like 17 to 20, depending on what you
What?
count as a
Just in that
string.
recap?
Yeah, just in that recap.
Wow.
And and I think that's just really fascinating. And then I also kind of went through them and noted, okay, like which ones of them actually resolved. So we had the
That's a good
whole
idea.
like, yeah, we had like the whole Mon Mothma Davo that resolved. We had like, what's Vel gonna do? We kind of saw what she's gonna do, and we know she's with Xanthe. Okay, nice. Krieger, Anto Krieger.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
know that they did betray him, that every single person in his company, at least who were at that raid, is no longer living, and
Yeah.
they're still counting bodies. Uh, which is interesting. Which also tells us, like, we found out where Luthen's gonna go. He actually ended up, um, on Ferrix, which I thought was pretty
Hmm.
impressive. And I think that Marva's speech made a huge impact on Luthen.
Uh-huh.
I think
Yeah.
that
They
when
kept
she
cutting to
said
shots of
that,
him.
When she said that the disgusting disease of the Empire thrives in the darkness, I think that really made
Mm.
him think about all the dark stuff that he's been talking about and how maybe there's some so maybe I think that he like, created a need for him to then welcome in Cassian.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Oh, if that doesn't look Sith Lordy, I
I know
don't
he looked
Yeah,
know.
right.
he was so Sithy in this episode.
That's
I
just
drew him. I drew him. Let's see.
Yeah, I love a
He's
good.
here in the corner, very small. Luthen,
Oh, that's
Luthen
him.
hooded
I'm
in a little
Luthen
so.
circle
Hooded,
because there was this one shot where we were seeing
Darth
him
Luth,
through. Yeah.
That's good.
Darth Luthen. Um, I actually with that the Luthen, that reminds me of another sound design moment that I thought was really interesting, and I would love to like ask the sound designers about this decision. When there's this scene with him off in the distance after the fight, looking off into the at the top of the city and listening to the battle. And what was
Ah.
really interesting about that moment is
Mm-hmm.
he's sitting there, he's hearing the blaster shots, he's hearing the screams, he's like, I don't know what he's thinking at that moment, like, this is what it is, or something like that. But did anyone else feel like the blaster shots felt more like gunfire? Like they didn't sound like blasters, like what we've been known as blasters. And I know we kind of talked about this in an earlier episode that
Yeah.
I've been really working on the blaster sounds and trying to be different, but from that distance, they really made it sound like our world gunfire kind of a thing, unless I don't know, there's a bit more of a snap to the sound, a bit more of a less of a I don't know how to
Like a
describe
boing.
yeah, but like there's more of a transient up front rather
Yeah.
than a yeah, like a
Rather than a
snap,
boing.
like
No.
a kind
Yeah.
of a thing, or kind of a thing. It's just more. It felt like a clap.
Mm-hmm.
There you go, like an impulse. More of an
Mm.
impulse than like what we've been hearing from blaster sounds that kind of have this like electric feel to them,
Yes.
laser electric feel, where these just felt like gunshots in the distance,
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
I actually thought I feel like I thought they were like listening now. They sound like bombs or something.
I'll take a
Yeah, they
minute
don't
here with
sound like
that.
what we're used to hearing as Star Wars laser fire. I thought that was interesting. It definitely like heightened to the terror of the moment in a way of just like listening to these innocent people screaming in the background. Um, but yeah, it was just a really interesting decision.
Yes. The blasters in general have been much talked about, much source of discussion in this series. And I know, I think you mentioned, Justin, that wasn't your favorite choice, the real worldiness sound of them.
I liked it kind of in the Aldani episode a lot.
Okay.
I liked it there. Here, I'm not the biggest fan of it. It took me out of it
Okay.
of the Star Wars world a little bit.
Yeah.
Just personally, it kind of brought me a little too real world for me.
Yeah.
And that kind of uncomfort, but it was just an interesting choice there. So questions for the sound designers there, but also props to the sound designers for every single shot of when the band was playing. Like the sound sounded different, like it was coming from like
That part of the section.
yeah, like that part of where those people were standing or that section. So props
Props to that.
major props
Yeah,
to that
definitely.
whole editing sequence. Like that
Definitely,
was
'cause
really
that could
really
have been-
really well done.
Yeah, that could have come off really fake sounding.
Yeah.
It was really impressive, and in addition, they factored in the comms of the ISB agents,
Mhm.
and that level, and and they even kind of brought it into the dialogue with some of the officers being like, I can hear the music but I just can't see it, and I really liked that. I think that the sound design there was just fabulous.
Yeah, and the mixers.
um
Matthew says
Mm-hmm.
both Luthen and Cinta have been very Sith-like compared to, say, Mon Mothma and Vel, who are rebels, but seem to be trying more to hold on to their humanity. It's a good point. Also, I mean, I guess Luthen doesn't necessarily count, but Mothma and Vel trying to hang on to their humanity more actually does make sense since they're so high class and they have
Mm-hmm.
more. They literally have more on that side of their life. They have more assets. They have home, like they have more waiting for them on the non-rebel side. So Luthen, we don't know much about him, but Cinta, what does she have? Her whole family is gone.
mm,
You know, she doesn't have a nice home to come. You know, she doesn't have all that Mon Mothma has. You know, even though Mon
yeah,
Mothma is unhappy too. Like
Mm-hmm.
Cinta, Mon Mothma. Yeah. Luthen still is
I think
quite a
that
mystery, though.
Yeah.
I think the protocols are interesting too because, and they're kind of heightened in that scene where Vel walks in and says hi to Cinta, and Cinta's like, I'm not going to give you the time of day. There's an Imperial ISB officer here, um, supervisor here. But I think that that also goes to the social protocols of their different, I guess, different classes, which is that in high society in Star Wars culture, you always greet properly. You never miss a proper greeting. You don't just
Mm.
walk in and like
Mm.
start telling anyone anything. You always are like, "Hello, Chancellor so and so. Hello." So I just also thought it was interesting that, like, in a way, I felt like Vel was also just kind of doing what, like, it seems very normal to her that someone would at least say hello.
Well, she has the like
Uh,
protocol of like politeness and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
And also the class differences in relationships, or I feel like relationships accentuate class differences when you're programmed to, I don't know, relate to people in a certain way or to be always doing certain tasks. Like I can imagine someone like Vel or Mothma would be used to not having to like have being present as people, whereas someone maybe like Cinta, we don't really know her class status, but like whereas someone who is lower class might be used to being out of the way, not speaking, being just continuing to do their work quietly to sort of keep things moving, while the high class people can pause and
Mm-hmm.
greet and do other stuff. So this sort of like cross, I don't know, this relationship sort of, yeah, it's like almost like Vel wants Cinta to act more like her, but Cinta doesn't have the same background, necessarily have the same background or whatever. We making a lot of assumptions, but perhaps doesn't have the same background as Vel. Um, yeah, there's just a lot happening. A lot.
Yeah,
I want to give a shout out
totally.
to this guy
Mm-hmm.
who, great, I don't know, background actor. I'm not sure exactly. I can't remember if he had lines, but
He did
his
earlier in
When
the
he
season
he was just seething. Oh, okay, okay.
because he's the son of the hotel owner who got hung in the square after he got tortured. He the Bix and the hotel owner were arrested at the same time, and the hotel owner is his dad. And
Is
Oh,
he,
okay, okay.
is
um,
he the hotel? Is he the hotel owner? Or is he the shopkeep? The shopkeeper. I thought he was the
maybe those are the same
shopkeeper.
thing.
Where
Maybe those are the
Bix.
same thing.
Yeah, I thought he was the son of the shop. Like yes, we're thinking of the same character, but I thought he
Yeah, yeah.
was the shopkeeper where Bix was going in to go talk with the
Right.
Morse code, the transmitter space code thing.
Totally. I think
Or
I
Yeah.
just got it mixed up so that that was a shop and maybe like something else. The hotel, maybe Bix works at the hotel separately or something. I just, yeah, for some reason I remembered that. I don't know. But I think that's pretty minor, the hotel. Um, yeah, no, that's that I think the journey
Yeah,
of
he
that
hates the
kid is a big
Empire.
deal.
He
Yeah,
hates the
Yeah.
Empire.
he's not
Big
happy.
time. And like you can see the pain in
Yes.
his eyes, his
Oh,
face. Well acted.
Yes.
really well acted.
Do you
Um,
think do you think that his bomb was part of, like, he wasn't the only one who knew about that? Because it was, at some moments it was hard to
Yeah.
tell whether or
I
not they
feel like I
were
was making
all
eye
in
contact.
on this or not, or if he was just like, I brought this just in case. Like, if that fight had not broken out,
Mm-hmm.
let's just say it, like, for the sake of argument, it did not break out, would he have thrown that bomb?
It's a good question.
I think he would have, or he would have
I think he
felt
was.
weird,
He
or
had
like
it just in
felt
case.
unfulfilled
Yeah.
Yeah.
in having made it, and then it would become a symbol of his lack of action.
Yeah, that's true.
But really, what I think, so I mean, the Daughters of Ferrix knew how Marva's speech ended. So they knew that no matter what, the fact that Marva said those things at the end, like, the Empire could easily just kill them all just for that. I mean, they didn't. They clearly didn't
Mm-hmm.
fire until the bomb happened. But still, I guess I just wanted, like, I feel like they knew that this was going to become something really intense, and they knew that they were going to need to have a like a and what is the shuttle type thing that they flew off of the planet on, like they knew that things like that needed to be in place, because this wasn't going to be just a peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't think you can get away with someone saying fight the Empire in a square in Empire world, and I don't think you can get away with that
That's a good point. Like
at all.
I hadn't really thought about the fact that some people would have already known how the speech was going to go, is which is good, which makes sense why they were prepared.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they were so prepared that instead of moving it to the Empire's time, they kept it at noon. They kept it at midday, and that was the advantage that allowed them to
Mm.
carry off Marva's
Mm-hmm.
plan without the Empire being already there, already present, ready to shut it down immediately. That's what saved them partially. They never would have been able to, like, Marva's speech would never have gone so long if the Empire hadn't been taken by surprise. And it also just goes to show the overconfidence that the Empire has in certain things. Like, they 2 hours before the event and they're not set up. Like, from an events setup production standpoint, that's
Yeah.
absurd, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
No way. Yeah.
they're like, we've got a few hours. Let's take lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's not how this works.
Yeah. Yeah. This. Yeah. So much. We didn't even talk about. Well, there's the end, and then there's the credits, the Death Star scene.
I missed that.
Did you?
I missed that.
Oh, did everyone miss
I
it?
thought
They
I
had a
watched it
post-credit
again.
scene.
I was so certain. I even was waiting for one.
Oh my god.
What?
Disney. I'm gonna blame it on
How did I
Disney.
miss
It's okay.
that?
I
was
missed
the
it
plan.
until like I had it playing, but like I was like usually when the credits are playing, I will be like, sort of finishing my notes. And so I was sort of
Oh.
like looked away. It was very small, and they showed well, okay. Did
Yeah,
everyone in
well,
chat see the credit scene? Did the end credit scene? Did everyone see that?
Watching it now.
Credit scene. What are you talking about?
Maybe I just made it up.
Only you saw it.
Only I saw it.
It was a hallucination or a special beam from B2 emo to you.
Okay, so I guess we'll not talk
You.
about that. It wasn't a very big scene, and there was no. It wasn't. I wouldn't really call it. It was a half post-credit scene. It was just like. You'll see. It wasn't like
I'm
a
gonna
full
mute.
on. Yeah,
Oh,
you'll
got
see.
good sounds.
Okay, you saw it, Matthew. Okay. Okay, you saw it. Everyone else saw it. Christina, Chuck saw it. Well. I mean, yeah. Okay, so there was a
So if
credit
they're
scene.
already building,
Okay, are you watching it
sorry,
now?
I'm like, yeah, I am.
Okay, okay.
That so that like one of my absolute main questions is answered here, which is that I think it's fascinating that nobody that we currently are aware of, except for Wolf Yularen. We
Yeah,
don't see Wolf Yularen in the scene, and I
yeah.
think it's because who's dealing with the Narkina 5 prison? That seems like it would be an ISB top issue. However, no one's talking about it, and I think that's because it's so high up that probably Yularen and his elite team are the only ones taking care of that. But that
Of
does
Narkina
support
5?
the idea that maybe they were building their prison is so secret that general ISB doesn't know about it, and maybe they're building parts of the Death Star on Narkina 5.
Well, I mean, that's what we
We were
saw in the
we
credits.
confirmed that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
the
what's.
credits
I just
show.
watched. I just watched it
Yeah.
right now. Yeah, they've been building Death Star parts, which is something I've been thinking about since we saw them building anything.
I felt like that
You
was
know.
yeah, we had talked about several different paths of what they were building, and well, I felt like it was definitely something that they were actually using rather than the theories that they were just making things to be taken apart just to be cruel. Because
Right.
it really seemed like they needed that prison labor, and so this really confirms that they really needed that prison
Yeah.
labor. I think what surprised me in the post credit scene was how complete the Death Star looked.
Yeah.
But people reminded me on Discord that technically the Death Star was already like we could already see a skeleton of it basically in Revenge of the Sith. So
Yeah.
it has been a long time. But
I liked how it was like kind of stretched out, like it was like you see that the parts are all gonna fit into each other. That was cool. Darn, I'm so angry. I missed that. I mean, I'm happy that I didn't just go 3 months without having
yeah.
seen like like what Death Star scene. Um, that's crazy. That's cool.
Yeah, totally, Chuck. Luthen's Sith look
Yeah.
is in keeping with his statement, I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy speech in episode 10. Totally. Yes.
Yeah, it's good, Jack.
Yeah. And he
Um,
is. And now Cassian is, I guess, teaming up with him. With back
it's
to Dedra. Oh,
amazing. Oh, sorry. I'm
no,
just
go
going to
ahead.
really quickly say it's just I'm constantly amazed at the foresight of Palpatine. He is just the best planner that exists in the Star Wars universe. He like the fact that the Death Star is already maybe not close to completion, but pretty. I mean, it
I mean, it
looks
looks like, yeah, but we don't know
they're
the
making some
inside.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're making some nice progress. Like there's no maybe there might even be like a kitchen already on the other side of the Death Star. Like they've got it together.
They have the bunks already. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really impressive. Like the actual takeover of the Senate hasn't even occurred yet.
Yeah. And there's
Um,
already, yeah.
yeah, Mon Mothma, like the Senate, like there has been no official, fist punching, headbutting between the senators that are eventually going to become the rebellion and
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
uh, Chancellor Palpatine. Yeah,
Emperor.
Chancellor
Emperor.
Emperor.
Yeah.
I guess at this
He's
point he'd
emperor.
still be Chancellor,
Yeah,
No,
right?
he's
emperor
emperor. He's
at this
emperor.
point. Yeah.
He's emperor
Oh no,
for
he's
sure.
definitely the Empire.
Yeah,
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 I see
yeah.
what you mean. So that has happened already, right? Never
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
It's just that the Senate is in shambles. It's merely a shell of what it was before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a Senate with an emperor who
Sure.
whatever. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So the line that got me about Dedra was like, so we think like Partagaz is like Team Dedra, but like he's not really. He just when they're talking about her behind her back, and he's like, take a guess who's not happy about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's trying to talk her down.
and then Dedra, who has, tried to plan, has all of her plans, but like no one else can like actually follow her plans. Like no one else is really, Well, Cyril says that he will follow her every plan. So yeah, maybe we'll see more of that. So before the next season, we were gonna have to wait a couple years, unfortunately. Oh, Christina, looks
Years?
like you didn't know that. Oh, Justin, you didn't know that either. Oh man.
Years?
Yeah. Yeah.
I gotta say, no. I
No.
don't accept that. And they need to stop.
Okay.
Disney needs to stop everything they're doing and just funnel all their attention into the second season and get it out within 1 year. I don't know. I was like, at the end of this episode, I loved all of it. This is with, okay, I'm going to say what I'm going to say with the knowledge of I loved all of it.
Okay.
Like, I felt so underwhelmed as a finale because I was like, this felt like just another episode of Andor, and there's going to be another one next week.
Yeah.
You know?
I felt
like
that way too.
Like, this wasn't a great wrap up. It was a great wrap up, but it wasn't a great wrap up. I liked that we got the, like, I kind of, something that I've been thinking that Andor was going to make it there, and no one was going to know that, like, all these problems of all these people looking for Andor was going to happen, and he just gets in and gets out, and no one knows that he was right there once again. He just kind of slipped right by them. It almost reminded me of, anybody seen the movie The Fifth Element?
A long time ago.
Classic, wonderful, over-the-top Star Wars, but not Star Wars, Star Trek, but not Star Trek movie with Bruce Willis and all these great characters. But the main character and two of the main characters and throughout the entire film never meet each other and miss each other at one point by this much, like by 2 seconds. But we follow them throughout the entire movie. It's wonderful. And at just one moment, they barely miss each, like around a corner kind of a thing, and then they go off and they never know of each other kind of a thing, which is interesting. I really felt like it was like that. Here's Andor once again, not knowing all these people are looking for him. At the very end of the episode, he's with Luther. He's like, "You've been trying to kill me, haven't you?" Kind of a thing. He just put it together. It was interesting.
Okay, so regarding the timeline, okay, I'm seeing. Oh, you're not going to like this news, Justin. You're not going to like this. Okay, so my source is a Collider article, so I'll put the link in the chat so people can see the source. Okay, so Tony Gilroy shared that season 2 filming would begin this week. This article came out 6 days ago. Okay, so this week. And he also revealed that filming will conclude in August 2023, which makes it unlikely that the series would return by the end of next year. While some series are able to wrap on filming, jump straight into post-production, and get episodes on television within the span of a few months, it seems like Andor requires significant VFX work, and expedited post-production timelines come with a hefty price tag. During the conversation, Gilroy shared... Oh, I'm going to put this screenshot up here. Ooh. Gilroy just tells it like it is. The only place you can accelerate the process is in post, and the only way you can accelerate in post is with money, and money is tight. So I don't really know. There would have to be some serious motivation next May or June or something. Someone would have to say, wow, we really need this, and we're willing to pay X. Rogue One proved if you throw money at it, you can do post really, really fast. It's just very, very, very expensive. Sounds like he has thrown down a gauntlet.
Damn, he's throwing out some shade.
That's not subtle at all. Like, they finished filming in August 2023, so that's in like 9 months. And then and you're going to have to wait even longer if they don't throw money at it. So
I think that's fascinating because that also to me implies that they didn't start filming until they knew what the response to Andor was going to be like. If they didn't even start filming till 6, I feel like the timing is too close to be coincidental.
Well, I don't know if you knew this, Christina, but as Matthew says, it was originally pitched as 5 seasons, and then it was cut to 2. And I believe at the time that we were at Star Wars Celebration, Justin, in May, I think, I believe didn't Tony Gilroy introduce, like...
Yeah, he said that he was there,
time,
and he said it was 2 seasons, 24 episodes.
Oh, are you sure? I thought at Star Wars Celebration they said it was more. Okay.
No, he said it was 24 episodes, 2 seasons. And he
Okay.
kind of laid it down. He said this was going to lead us up to one thing, and then the season 2 is going to lead us right into Rogue One. And there's
Yeah.
going to be some time jumps.
Yeah,
That's what I've
they're-
been reading too, is that this next season, according if it's going to happen according to what has been projected, 3 episodes are going to be 1 year, and another 3 episodes are going to be like a time jump of 3 years forward. They're going to have some like major time jumps, like less this all happened within a week or kind of a thing. Like this one kind of felt like.
Yeah, so we will see a lot of wrap up. We'll see a lot of threads that were left untied here. Probably, yeah,
Yeah.
probably see some stuff next season. But yeah, mid to late 2024, so in 2 years, which is
Oof.
feels like a long time.
Well,
does
we got
feel
the
like a long-
Acolyte, so Acolyte to cover and a couple other things to hold us over.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
TV is so tough though. Like I feel like for me, I need the momentum. It is
Yeah.
very hard for me to like. Yeah, I don't watch very many like drama shows at all, especially if I can, unless I can watch them all. Like I did see Lost all on Netflix or whatever it was on. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I could like binge the whole thing basically. Anything that I started watching Breaking Bad when it came out, like back in the day, and it was hard for me to continue the momentum past 2 seasons. Like I never finished Breaking Bad, and like I think I would like to finish Breaking Bad, but I know I have to start all over because the momentum. The thing is, since it's a Star Wars show, I definitely will watch it again. So there's
Yeah.
no danger of me dropping off there. But still, that is a long time. It's a long time.
It is a long time. And I did look at my list I called my list No Strings Attached. But yeah, every single string could totally continue in the next season. There wasn't one thing the only thing that I guess could not continue would be Anto Krieger. However, I think that the death of an entire segment of the rebellion would that whoever knew them, whoever is their outer circle, is going to be pretty upset. So I guess
Yeah.
even that has a potential to continue on. And I
I hope
really
we.
want Nemec's manifesto to be like, I don't know, distributed or something like that.
I saw a
Yeah.
tweet today that was like a shot from Rogue One, and it was like, "Is this Nemec's manifesto on Cassian's?" Oh, I'll have to. Who tweeted it? Manifesto.
Oh, did you see the Rogue One connection to Melshi?
Oh, it was
A lot of
Braddington.
people have been saying that Melshi's in the background of a scene.
Oh, well, we knew that. We knew that. Or
I didn't.
maybe you did. Okay.
I didn't know that.
Oh, okay.
That was supposed to be someone
Oh,
that we
okay.
met.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah.
Braddington posted. So is that Nemec's manifesto on Cassian Andor's jacket in Rogue One?
Maybe.
Cause that's cool.
It looks a lot like it.
Yeah.
And he's wearing it kind of like a badge.
Yeah.
Like that's a weird place to keep an object.
It is, but also in Rogue One to have put that on his costume, they must have really intentionally wanted that to be there. Yeah. So anyway, Matthew reminds us that Mandalorian season 3 and Ahsoka series is coming out next year as well. Yeah, I know.
And I want Andor.
Here, I simultaneously have this thing where like I want more Andor, but like I feel like there's too much Star Wars coming out. I don't need as much Star Wars to be coming out. Good thing James is in here. James would have vehemently disagree. And the thing is, I will be excited for I will be very excited for Mandalorian season 3 and Ahsoka. I'll be excited when they come out, but just overall, I wouldn't mind a slower pace of shows. I wouldn't mind that overall. So yeah,
Well,
I'm not like itching for the next Star Wars fix. I want the next Andor.
Exactly, and especially because of how this show is like really kind of went in a very different tonal direction than a lot of, if not all, of the other TV content Star Wars have been. Like Mandalorian had a really cool, fresh take. Boba Fett had a fresh take that was a little different. I'm very curious to see if Ahsoka is gonna follow in that same tone as Mandalorian and Boba Fett, kind of a thing. I'm very, very, especially because the character appeared in Boba Fett, which I'm just
Mandalorian.
referring to, yeah, which I'm just referring to as Mandalorian season .25,
Ahsoka was in
two point
Mandalorian
five.
season 2.
Is that season 2? No, I
Yeah,
thought
you're
she
getting them
was
mixed
in.
up now. Ahsoka was
See,
definitely in Mandalorian, and Boba Fett, both of them, but first in Mandalorian.
okay, it was Mandalorian then. Okay, that's fine. Sure. See, no, Boba Fett is Mandalorian season 2.5 for me. It is what it was. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what the tonal aspect of Ahsoka is going to be.
I'm
Now,
guessing more like Mandalorian.
I'm guessing too.
Yeah,
It's going to be more like that.
maybe more
Um,
like Mandalorian plus Tales of the Jedi. Maybe we'll see.
maybe.
Ahsoka has a way of getting in with communities of people though too, so
Hmm.
hopefully that like Andor vibe comes into play a little bit. Like she's also in hiding.
Yeah,
Like it's very dangerous for anyone to know that she's a Jedi, so maybe the kind of noir aspect of Andor will come into Ahsoka because she can't just be like the Mandalorian where she's like, yeah, walking around, I've got my sword,
yeah.
my
You know what?
lightsaber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matthew says Ahsoka series looks to be almost a sequel to the Rebels TV series. That's true with
Yes.
the casting and everything. So,
Mhm.
right, because that's the one that rumors of
Yeah.
potential Thrawn.
You want
There
to
he
see
is,
There
Thrawn.
he is.
Ahsoka.
There he is.
We almost made we almost made it. We almost made it.
Ahsoka's looking for Thrawn. So are we.
So are we. Yeah.
Oh,
So okay.
Ziggy, it's your
Rebels.
friend. See? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we have so many
We
cats.
all have
Oh
gray
my gosh.
cats.
My cat is in the next room, probably hungry. Anyway,
Yeah.
I feel like we pretty thoroughly talked about the season finale.
I think so
Um,
too.
Thank you everyone for watching the Band Batch coverage this season. Um, Ahsoka's the same production team as Mando Boba, so I'd expect the same tone as those. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
probably.
Um, yeah, we've had a blast
Yeah.
covering this, and of course we miss James. James has been part of every episode except this week and last week. And yeah, any final thoughts from you, Justin or Christina?
I'm so excited and sad and excited and sad all in one.
I'm so
This is
grateful
just-
that we had this show.
I'm very grateful that we had this, and I'm grateful that we all came together and got to do Andor. I remember back in, uh, Celebration. We were kind of like, are we gonna do Obi-Wan? Are we gonna wait for Andor? And we all kind of had this like,
Yeah.
I don't know what's gonna
Well,
happen. And then when we all came together for Andor,
James wanted to do everything, but
yeah, I mean we all,
of course.
yeah, but I'm very happy that we
I'm
came
so
back for Andor, and
Me
we got
too.
because this music was absolutely fantastic, and
It was interesting. It was interesting.
yeah,
for
it
Star
was
Wars.
very, very
Lots to
interesting,
talk about.
and I definitely will be like downloading the soundtrack and purchasing the soundtrack. I feel like I haven't been this excited for like listening back to music out of the realm of watching it at the same
I'm
time.
curious
As,
what you're going to think, Justin. I've listened to the first 2 soundtracks. We will share thoughts.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes,
'cause
absolutely.
I do have thoughts.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Thank you too, Matthew. Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
I guess enjoy your nights now, wherever you are, whatever time zone you're in. And I guess we.
Christina, final thoughts.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. I'm so sorry, Christina. You joined
Yes.
us, and we're so happy that you joined us.
Thank you for having me very much. It's been really exciting. And yeah, it's great. This was a perfect show to be analyzing music and all sorts of things for. It's really ideal.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Indeed. All right.
All
With
right,
that-
final playoff. For
Yes,
now.
with that.